welcome to Woman to Woman. Thank you for tuning into the show today. Today we're going to be discussing handling conflict. I have my co-hosts with me, Shirley and Boogie. Thank you for joining the show.
Hey, everybody.
All right.
I'm learning today.
And I hope everybody's having a good day, by the way.
Every day is a good day. Every day we wake up is a good day.
I know it's been a while with all the technical difficulties and everything, but it's very good to hear each of you back on the show and everything functioning smoothly today. All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to be talking a lot today about marriage relationships and tips. And one thing we were going to discuss today in some detail is 6 steps for resolving conflict in marriage. But before we get into that, I'd like to take a quick moment to play this insert that has some tips about conflict in marriage as well. And it was very interesting, and I wanted to start that off in the show.
Phyllis Diller once said, "Never go to bed mad. Stay up and fight." She may have had a good point, but you've got to go to bed sometime. So if you want to stop that fight in its tracks, here are some helpful tips. Write down the topic of your disagreement. Staying focused on the issue at hand will keep the fight from snowballing. There's a saying, praise in public, criticize in private. So take it outside where your kids, your friends, your parents won't see your discussion or be put in the awkward position of choosing sides. It takes a strong person to say I'm sorry, and an even stronger one to forgive. Be both. Remember these simple conflict resolution solutions, and it is easy to keep love off of the battlefield.
All right. What do you think? You think that was some pretty sound advice, guys?
I think so. I think so. But I just think, that it only applies to people that are mature. I mean, that's what they left out.
Well, do you have a tip for us on how to handle an immature?
No, not really. I can't do that. I mean, I'm having a difficult time myself as it is. I don't know how to. I mean, honestly, I'm just saying, when you're dealing with an immature person, with these kind of conflicts, the conflict is gonna keep going on and on because they don't quite get it, especially if you're trying to deal with things in a mature manner. And if you bring it down to an immature level where you're going na and pointing fingers and playing games and tit for tat, yeah, they can probably, do it all day long with you, but they still can't handle the conflict. So, that's another subject for another day. You said something about something else, so go ahead.
All right. Well, I found it interesting. Did you have something, Shirley?
No, I was just laughing.
Oh, okay. Girl, I thought you were talking for a minute. I was like, I'm talking all over. I found an interesting article, and it was written by a man, Dennis Rainey. I found it online. And the article is, there's no way to avoid conflict in marriage. The question is, how will you deal with it? And he has 6 steps for resolving conflict in marriage. And I was reviewing it, and it had a lot of interesting insight and some information in it that I wanted to share. And, of course, a lot of the stuff that I look at has biblical background and everything. But I also want to share this with you all, some of the highlights in the article that I thought were very interesting, and see what you guys had to say about it. Okay, as far as step 1. Step 1, resolving conflict requires knowing, accepting, and adjusting to your differences. And he goes on to say that one reason we have conflict in marriage is that opposites attract. Usually a task-oriented individual marries someone who is more people-oriented. People who move through life at breakneck speeds seem to end up with spouses who are slower paced. It's strange, but it's a part of the reason why you marry who you did. Your spouse added a variety, a spice, and difference in your life that it didn't have before. But after being married for a while, sometimes a short while, the attraction becomes repellence. You may argue over small irritation, such as how to properly squeeze a tube of toothpaste, or over major philosophical differences in handling financing or raising children. You may find that your backgrounds and your personalities are so different that you wonder how and why God placed you together in the first place. Shirley, I'm going to pick on you first. because I think we've talked about this before, or something similar about this before. Do you tend to agree to opposites attract?
Sometimes. Sometimes I think it's other things that attract, it may be a guy that he just looks so yummy to you, you're like, oh, I got to have that. Or the girl may be so beautiful that, he just has to have her, but not knowing how she's messed up or how he's messed up on the inside. That could mess up some stuff.
True.
Because people they put on these fronts like they're, oh, I'm such a good-hearted person. Oh, I do this, and this. Then once you get with them, you come on paper, become legal. That's a whole nother story, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I'm for real. I have seen it. I have dealt with it. So, yeah.
Well, Boogie, this one's for you. Do you see the opposites in your relationship with your marriage to your wife?
At first it was cool. It was like, okay, she's from the sticks, from the woods, the backwoods, and I'm from the city, So I thought it was a nice combination, but it became a battlefield after a while because of her upbringing and mine, And I think that's where the conflict starts because of upbringing. If you're brought in a home where conflict is a common occurrence, and some people deal with it some people can deal with it in a positive manner because they saw it coming up or they learned it along the way. But some people never learned how to deal with conflict because of what they saw, and they never tried to. They just tried to stay away from it as long as they could. But when it came time to get married, you can't avoid conflict when you get married. I mean, I'm sorry, you just can't. It happens, and it just depends on you and sometimes your upbringing, like I said, but more or less about what you learned along the way.
Now, I agree with that. That is true. And your home situation, your upbringing I agree, it does have a lot to do with it, and how you process and deal with the information. My home was very loud. My parents argued all the time, nearly every day. And it get to the point where it didn't bother me because I was able to just tune them out, and just because I saw it so much that it was just part of normal everyday thing. But my sister, on the other hand, she couldn't deal with it. She would scream, holler, try to get their attention to keep from arguing, and she had a hard time dealing with it, and in the whole process. And her outlook, and it tend to affect people in certain ways of how they look at relationship and what their idea of love is, or this, I can't say exactly what was going through her mind, but it affects how it outlook on you. My parents don't love each other. Does that mean they don't love me? That mean, if from a child's standpoint, a lot of things go to your mind. Well, are they going to separate? Where am I going to go? What's going to happen to me? There's always something angry here. I can't, and it does. I think the upbringing has a lot to do with how you perceive stuff. Because me, like I said, it was a part of normal life. It was arguing. Okay, they argue all the time. She took it totally different. It could be that way, a husband and wife. Somebody might be used to arguing, and it's no big deal for them to blow off on the handle at you without a good reason why. Well, the other person might get withdrawn and so hurt that and offended that they just solitude themselves. And they're not used to that. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay, so we're talking about conflict in marriage. Now, do you think you can solve a conflict in a marriage by just avoiding the situation altogether, just acting like it never happened?
No.
And sweeping it under the rug each time?
No.
Okay. I mean, I know some people that do that, and they tend to think, okay, well, that was yesterday or that was last week, so it should just be over with, said and done. And they wonder why, why we're still having problems. That was last week, and we, didn't have to talk about it. I swept it under the rug. I've forgotten about it. I forgot about what I said and did to you. I forgot about that. So why are you still mad about it?
That's immaturity, though, because if you don't,
I think at that point, then the argument or the conflict gets even larger than what what it would have been if you had a solid situation then.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I actually just finished a show before this one on from Mission Marriage, and he talked about that as well. And the speaker there, Jimmy Evans, was talking about how he compared it to a teapot, a tea kettle. You put it on the stove, as long as it's whistling, you know, it's okay. But when you bottle it up and you put the cap on and it can't let it out, then it's going to explode. It's going to boil over, and you're going to have a mess.
Mm.
And I agree with that. I was like, wow, yeah, you know, it is, because you keep that bottle up, eventually it's going to come out, and you're not going to like it when it comes out. Well, after it's been bottled up, thought about, movie played over several times, built up here and there, it tends to be a bigger mess. It's avoiding conflict doesn't resolve the conflict. It usually irritates the other person. It bottles up that anger, and they rebuild that anger on it. And then that anger changes your feelings toward another person, your affection. It goes from a spiral, cause of effect, from that point on.
That's about right.
But the article goes on to say also, it's important to understand that our differences, understand our differences, and to accept and adjust to them. Just as Adam accepted God's gift of Eve, you are called to accept his gift to you. God gave you a spouse who completes you in ways you haven't even learned yet. Now, that's not going to say every day is going to be a rainbow. It's not going to say you're not going to argue or have disagreements, and it's okay to have a disagreement and an argument. I do find that you got some situations, because this has happened to me. Sometimes I feel like my husband feels like I'm not supposed to have a disagreement with him. Everything he says is just, I'm happy with it. I'm just, because he's just the husband. And everything he says is just supposed to be cool with me automatically, and I shouldn't say anything. And he gets so frustrated and upset when I have a disagreement with what he says, and then he goes off trying to explain it in his turn to make me understand and see his way. Like I don't have the right to disagree, and he'll just keep going and going and going, and if I just stop talking and walk away, he'll still keep going for a little while, but eventually he can't argue with himself and he will leave me alone eventually. But I'm like, okay, can I have a difference of opinion? Some people can't handle you having a difference of opinion with them. And that puts you in an awkward situation, because I call for a time out, okay? It's a difference of opinion. Let it go. Why are you badgering me with a hammer about my difference of opinion? Am I not entitled to have my own opinion? Am I not my own being? At times that does get frustrating as well. But go ahead, Shirley.
So that whole thing, I had a flashback to the movie Coming to America, the part when
whatever kind of music you like.
Yes, that's what it takes me to. But then I also think that they need to write in the wedding vows that you agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Because everyone has their own opinion. I have my opinion. My husband has his opinion. Do we always agree? No. But I'm going to say what I need to say, and I'm going to be done with it. You ain't got to like it, but you're going to hear it. Because when he said what he's going to say, I don't always like it, but I listen to what he's saying. I say, okay, that's your opinion.
And that's great. That's one way to resolve that, because a person has the right to disagree, but they shouldn't feel like they cannot communicate that with you. A person should be allowed to be able to disagree without you having a tantrum or a fit about something. The ways of a marriage is open communication. You should be able to communicate whether it's positive or something negative without the other person exploding. Yes, it is a way to say it to a person and a way to approach a person that is respectful and in love, but you still should be able to come in love and display your feelings about a certain thing and be able to communicate that without it turning into something outrageous, to that effect as well. Moving on to step number 2. Step number 2 was resolving conflict requires defeating selfishness, which is a big one. All of our 4 differences are magnified in marriage because we feed what is undoubtedly the biggest source of our conflict, our selfishness, sinful nature. Maintaining harmony in marriage has been difficult since Adam and Eve. Two people beginning their marriage together and trying to get through their own selfishness separate ways can never hope to experience oneness of marriage as God intended. Um, all of us like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way. Isaiah 53 verse 6. We are all self-centered. We are all instinctively look out for number one. And this leads directly to conflict. Marriage offers a tremendous opportunity to do something about selfishness. We have seen the Bible's plan work in our lives, and we're still seeing it work daily. We have not changed each other. God changed both of us. The answer for ending selfishness is found in Jesus and his teaching. He showed us that instead of wanting to be first, we're supposed to be willing to be last. Instead of wanting to be served, we must serve. Instead of trying to save our lives, we must lose them. We must love our spouse or our neighbors as such as we love ourselves. In short, if we want to defeat selfishness, we must give up, give in, and give all. Selfishness has been a big topic. Shirley, me and you have talked about selfishness before as well in marriage. Do you have anything you want to say about that before I say anything else?
About being selfish?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that if a person is selfish about things when it comes to the marriage, and they have to be willing to make a few changes, once it's been addressed, and, you should be able to go to that person and say, well, you know what, I feel like you have a selfish way about X, Y, and Z, and you should be able to talk to that person in a reasonable way, and, maybe they'll be willing to try to make some changes, because sometimes people don't even realize that they're really being selfish. I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but it's for real, because my husband, he has his selfish ways, and I had to check him on it a couple times. I'm like, dude, you being selfish. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, whatever the issue was, I was telling him how he was acting. He didn't even realize that he was doing it because he had been doing it for so long. So he was willing to make that adjustment. But not all people are like that. They may not have that mature level where they can say, you know what, I didn't mean for it to be like that. I didn't even realize I was being selfish in my ways. So you got to be able to talk to that person, and they need to be able to receive what you're saying, not in a negative way, but in a loving way. It's just your way of saying, you know what, I love you, and this is what you're doing, and help me to try to fix this. That's what we were talking about.
Right.
Okay.
You have to be willing, but the person, you can't, say, well, I'm gonna change myself. Okay, you can't say it with an attitude, because that's just not gonna work. And grow up and be the man or woman you're supposed to be, and accept your fault, because we all have them. I know I got them. I ain't perfect, but I am trying to correct some stuff as it's brought to my attention, and I try to focus on it so that I don't continue to do whatever it was to cause that problem in the first place.
Boogie, could you share with us an example of selfishness in marriage? It doesn't have to be a personal experience unless you want it to be.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to share something personal.
Okay.
Okay, well, just a brief description. My wife and I had a joint checking account at one time. And she wouldn't balance the checkbook every week. She would spend, but wouldn't put the stuff in the checkbook. So when it came down to paying bills on Friday, of course, I'd be short $200-300. So I'm like, wow, I gotta transfer money out of savings or from over here my business checking account so I can get things in order. This happened over and over and over. So I would tell her, hey, hey, what's wrong? Why don't you balance this checkbook? But she would get mad at me and say, well, she can't remember what she spends. I'm like, how do you get mad at me because you can't remember what you spend? So basically, the selfishness came in that she basically felt like she didn't have to put her debits or whatever she's spending to the account because I should just take over and take care of her and make sure that I fix it so that she can keep doing what she wants to do, instead of saying, hey, we need to come together and let me stop being selfish and think about that how this is wearing him down and how this is causing a problem in our home. So what I'm saying this for is to say that over time, if you don't fix that situation, it can become a bigger problem and you can have some larger money issues.
Yeah.
And that goes for any type of, and that goes for anything else in your home or your marriage. If you don't fix that problem and you try to avoid it and say, well, I'm going to put it off on my spouse, then eventually it will blow up, like you said, and it'll be a much bigger problem years down the road, and you'll look back and go, wow, what happened? I didn't think of it as such a big problem. Now it is.
Yeah, because that can be a big financial stress, and money is already difficult to handle between, well, it can be difficult to handle between two people in a marriage as it is. And when you got one not communicating money issues, and then you got insufficient fund fees and fees for this and that coming out that you didn't plan for or may not even have for, it causes a bigger problem with that as well. You can also be selfish in just you want everything catered to you, but you don't want to give back to the other person. You
Ooh,
love it when somebody
that's
ministers to
heavy.
you and I love you and maybe bring you dinner or a plate or fix you something to drink or do something special for you, but they never return the favor. They don't think they have to do anything for you.
Nah, because they think you owe that to them.
Mm.
Exactly. I've seen that too.
That's selfish.
Yeah.
That's being on a whole other level.
You know, hey, if I can send you a little I love you text, how you doing, miss you, can I get one back every now and then? You
But you know
know,
what? Okay, but let me interject this right quick. Okay, if I tell you something or if I ask you something and I say, baby, I love you, and then he says, well, I love you too, who am I to come to him and say, well, can't you call me baby too? That's selfish. Because you
Those start
say,
conflicts as well.
ooh,
Yeah,
yo, that's
that's a
big,
conflict.
you can't
Yeah.
do that. It's like, you know what? If you tell me that you love me and I say I love you too, then that's enough for me. You know, I
right.
guess maybe because I've been married for so long, I kind of overlook some stuff because I don't want to get into a conflict because, you know, I'm the kind of person I struggle with forgiveness. Don't ask me why, I just always have, and I'm working on that. But I would rather just take the real simple stuff and, you know, and leave it alone. I don't want any confrontation because I don't like to go there. I just don't. I would prefer a peaceful location where I'm at with my husband in the house, at the store, wherever we are. I don't want any disagreement because disagreements can get real ugly real fast.
Right.
So you take that how you want to take it.
Well, I think what you're saying is nitpicking. You know, that's a conflict. You know, it causes a conflict, major conflict, nitpicking, where you're saying, well, you didn't say it like I wanted you to say it, or you didn't say it exactly how I said it to you, or you didn't say I love you first. All of those things to me are nitpicking, and that starts a conflict. It does every time. I don't. It's just unavoidable if you keep nitpicking like that on. And you should be satisfied with, hey, they answered me back. They gave me a nice answer, but instead because it wasn't said like you wanted to hear it. Then okay, bam, I'm upset. I'm gonna nitpick until I get them pissed off or mad. Sorry.
Well, I guess I should apologize for not being psychic, huh? Because I
Yes.
really knew how it's supposed to come out of my mouth was how you wanted it, or how you wanted it was supposed to come out the way it did. But the whole thing about being together and being in a relationship is about sharing, serving one another, and pleasing one another as being your priority for the relationship. If my whole purpose is to please you and your purpose is to please me, then hey, we should be pleasing each other and we should be able to get this marriage together. There is no one in together is together for a reason. It takes two people, not one, to be able to make this work. So to experience
Yes.
oneness, you must give up your will for the will of another. To do this, you must first give up your will to Christ, and then you find it possible to give your will for your spouse. Now, he goes on to say in step 3, resolving conflict requires pursuing the other person. All right.
TT, before you move forward, I need to step away for a moment. Y'all
Okay.
keep talking, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, TT.
All right. It says pursuing the other person. He has a scripture in here. Romans 12 verse 16 says, if it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. The longer I live, well, the longer he goes on to say the longer he lives, he realizes how difficult those words are for many couples. Because it could be very hard to say things, to think about stuff before you say. If you're in a habit of just saying stuff, to another person, it can be hard for a couple, because I got so now I have to think about what I'm going to say before I'm going to say it, because I don't want to say anything intentionally hurtful that's going to cause a bigger problem that I'm going to regret saying later. So he goes on to say, living peaceably means pursuing peace. It means taking the initiative to resolve a difficult conflict rather than waiting for the other person to take the first step. Now, me and my spouse, for some reason, he's in it. I have to take the first step. He don't like coming forward first. He used to when we first got married, and something changed in there, and he will sit for days or whatever. He's not going to come first. I have to come first to resolve whatever the issue is, or he's just going to just be
and,
booty till
pride.
Yeah.
Pride set in where I don't have to answer that, or I don't want to answer that, or I don't want to fix it, let her fix it, because it probably got into a mode of you fixing it anyway. You just jumping in there and I'm going to fix it. I'll fix this. This is a problem. I'm going to fix it. And unconsciously you just started fixing it all the time, and he got comfortable enough to say, well, if I leave it alone, she'll fix it. And I won't have to say anything. I don't have to say I'm sorry, because she always fixes it.
Do you think that leaves emotional scars?
Oh yeah, it does. It causes you to build a wall. The person that's doing all the apologizing, all the talking, it causes emotional scars to where your heart will start getting hardened, and it just happens. Especially if the other person isn't pursuing conflict resolution or pursuing happiness with you. Instead, they're in their own little world where I'm happy over here. I'm not going to give that of myself because I don't want to get hurt, or whatever the issue may be.
One thing I can say about marriage, it does take work, and it takes work to keep it. And yeah, sometimes all I want to hear is I'm sorry, but I don't let that stop me. I don't try to get all in my head and emotional with the I'm sorry, looking for the I'm sorry, because that leads to disappointments for me. I don't look for things anymore. I don't put any high expectations on things. I take it for face value, because if I do and it doesn't happen, then I'm disappointed, then I'm hurt, then I'm bitter, then it just goes downhill from there. So it's to the point where, am I going to fight through this and I'm going to pick up from here and move forward with the peace that I have, or am I going to just stay stuck in here looking for this I'm sorry, or this him to do this certain thing or this certain thing, and it may not happen, and then I'm all hurt and disappointed, and nothing got resolved. There was still no resolution for me as far as my feelings about the whole issue. So marriage, I could say marriage is a struggle and a fight, because you tend to go through that, because when your feelings are hurt and stuff, to be able to pick up the pieces from the broken hurtness and move on with it, it's not easy. It is not an easy thing to just let go and move forward. It can be very difficult. It's easier said than done. Let me put it that way. It is possible you can pick up and you can move forward, but it takes a lot to battle through your hurt and your pain to be able to better the relationship still, to be able to do that. But at some point you start feeling tired if you're doing that all the time, and you're the only one that seems to be trying to really make this work, and the other one is almost like the other one's just stepping all over you, and just no regard for your feelings, no respect for the relationship or you, and things like that as well. You find that. So, but yeah, it says to pursue the resolution of a conflict means setting aside your own hurt, anger, and bitterness. It means not losing heart. And he gives a challenge. He says, my challenge to you is to keep your relationship current. In other words, resolve that you will remain in solid fellowship daily with your spouse, as well as with your children, your parents, your co-workers, and friends. Don't allow the enemy to gain victory by isolating you from someone you care about. And I thought that was a pretty good challenge. And the challenge was, keep your relationship current. Resolve that you will remain in a solid fellowship daily with your spouse. Step number 4 goes on to say resolving conflict requires loving confrontation. That's a big one, because if you're going to try to resolve a conflict, you can't come up with an attitude with somebody. Hey, look at here, you need to do this, 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 and you need to tell me you sorry, and you need to do this, or if we just ain't going to work, we just ain't having this. You just can't do that. He goes on to say, Wordsworth says, he who has a good friend needs no mirror. Blessed is a marriage where both spouses feel the other is a good friend who will listen, understand, and work through any problems or conflict. To do this well takes loving confrontation. And confronting your spouse with grace and tactfulness requires wisdom, patience, and humility. And he has some tips down for that. First tip is check your motivation. Will your words help or hurt? Will bringing this up cause healing, wholeness, and oneness, or further isolation? Number 2, check your attitude. Loving confrontation says, I care about you, I respect you, and I want you to respect me. I want to know how you feel. Don't hop on your bulldozer and run your spouse down. Approach your spouse lovingly. Number 3 is check your circumstances. This includes your timing, location, and setting. Don't confront your spouse, for example, when they are tired, had a hard day, in the middle of settling or squabbling between children. Also, never criticize, make fun of, or argue with your spouse in public. That's a big one. You know, being in public in a setting does make a difference whether you sitting there having a major argument out in Walmart versus in a closed door in the bedroom somewhere. You ever had that happen? I used to be bad at that at one point. He would irritate me while we sitting down somewhere in Golden Corral, and he would say something or another, or try to bring up something. I'm like, why you bring that up? You know, and I had to check myself. I don't do it anymore. Praise God. Thank you, Jesus.
No, I don't think I've dealt with that one per se. I don't think so.
It's even worse when you deal with baby mama drama in public. Well, the next one, he says, check to see what other pressures may be present. Be sensitive to where your spouse is coming from. What's the content of your spouse's life right now? Are they frustrated at work? The boss they just got fired. The boss giving them a hard time, and that might be why they kind of snapped at you a little bit. Is there something else pressuring them that they just might went off the handle? You know, it may not have meant it, but it kind of came out because of other pressures they may be under. The next one is listen to your spouse. Seek to understand his or her view and ask questions to clarify viewpoints. That one's a good one, because my husband, he had this big old argument because I said one sentence to him, one phrase, and he just starts fussing, carrying on. Shirley, you laughing because you know what I'm talking about. I said one thing, and he was like, he just went off on me, didn't want to be with me no more by the end of the day, because he gets mad. He says all kinds of stuff. See, I don't do stuff like that to him. If I say it, I mean it. I don't say nothing on me. Huh?
Let me tell it.
Go ahead. Hurry up, tell it.
He said, I can show you better than I can tell you. That's my phrase.
Oh, my gosh. It was her phrase. I've been talking to her that day. Her phrases rub off on me. And he said something to me that was way off, and I just said that. Next thing I know, it just really, we weren't going to move in together no more, and, you know, because it was a big mess. It was a big mess. And then after the fact, then he tried to act like the next day he didn't say nothing. That nothing ever happened, like you were talking about earlier, Boogie. Like it just didn't happen. Everything, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Good day to you.
That's a conflict in itself right there. Like, oh, you what?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, you got amnesia all of a sudden.
Literally, like he went to sleep and woke up and it never took place. Hey, how you doing, hon? I'm like, what? You just didn't want to have nothing to do with me just 24 hours ago. But and all of a sudden he was like, well, I didn't know what that could have meant. That could have meant you won't see other people. That could have meant you don't see that. What could have? I didn't say that. If you had a question about what that meant, you should have asked. Clarifying questions. You know, you just went all off the handle because you wanted to say something to hurt me. Because if you really want to know if that's what that meant, you're like, okay, does this mean you getting ready to do such and such and we getting ready to do this? You know, ask clarifying questions. We got like 10 minutes left, you y'all. All right, the next one is be sure you're ready to take it as well. Be sure you're ready to take it as well as you dish it out.
Oh, most people
Ooh.
can't do that. That's a good one because
Ooh.
I know a
Boy,
lot of
that's
people
a
that
good
can
one.
dish it out, but they can't take it.
Ooh. It says,
Ooh, if they
uh,
feelings hurt.
yep, it says you may start to give your spouse some friendly advice and soon learn that what you are saying is not really his problem but yours. Wow. The next one was during the discussion, stick to one issue at a time. Don't bring up several. Don't save up a series of complaints and let your spouse have them all at one time. I hate that. I hate that. If we talking about who didn't feed the dog or what have you, stay with the dog. Don't come back last week about the washing machine. Don't come back about your mama and what she said, he said, and don't come back about, you know, who doing what other couple doing this. We talking about the dog. We ain't get how we get all the way over there. Don't bring out something from the past, something other than what we talking about with this dog. You know, and then they try to blow up and bring up everything at one time. Don't let me come to you with my complaint. I'm trying to tell you what's bothering me, and you got all of a sudden a list. Well, where was your list when the stuff was happening? What was your complaint? Because I could have
Mm.
made an adjustment if you would have told me at the time it was happening. You gonna wait? This was 2 months ago. I didn't know that bothered you like that. You know, you just now bringing that up. Hey, you held this all this long. No wonder you going all off. You had that all bottled up inside. All you had to do was tell me when it was happening. You wait till now. Who fault is that you wait to blow up now? And now you looking crazy, and there are people looking at you like, why are you fussing and carrying on now? If you ready to get fussed back, if you're gonna start this, you know, then you wondering what attitude and stuff. Then it starts a war in the house. All right, the next one. Focus on the problem rather than the person. That's a good one. For example, you need a budget and your spouse is something of a spendthrift. Work through the plan for finances and make the lack of budget the enemy, not the spouse. Y'all get that one? Focus on
Mm-mm.
the problem rather than the person. Now, yes, it's the person involved in the
Spending the
problem.
money. Mm-hmm.
But if you need to come up with a
So I'm just trying
budget,
to figure this one out. It's the person spending the money. It's not like it's disappearing.
no. But work through a plan
Okay.
to focus on the problem. You know, don't
Take their
try to
debit
shoot
card
your
and the
spouse
checkbook
because
away
she
from them.
she don't know how to budget. Teach the woman how to budget. Don't
Oh
shoot her.
Or
shoot,
teach the
yeah.
men.
Teach her how to
It's
budget.
not just women, it's men too.
Men too.
What we our husband used to have a second cat together. Girl, please, he swiped that little card, he swiped it. He spent $2 to get some freaking cigars, and I'm like, why the money short? Oh, I forgot. Man, you can't be doing that.
It says focus on behavior rather than character. This is the you message verse. This is the I message again. You can insinuate your spouse's character and stab him right in the heart with you messages like you're always late. You don't care about me at all. You don't care about anyone but yourself. The I message would say, I feel frustrated when you don't let me know you'll be late. I would appreciate if you would call so we can make other plans. That was a good one. Instead of you, well, I get frustrated. That's also saying how you feel when they do such and such. Instead of like, you're always late. Well, I'm frustrated. And the reason why I'm frustrated is because you don't let me know when you'll be late. So that was a whole
What
lot
if your
better.
spouse says, what if your spouse says, well, I know you feel that way, but I don't see why you feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. That's a problem with you.
Right now, I'm frustrated because even though you feel that's a problem with me, it's a problem that I'm having. I'm telling you this because it's bothering me. I don't like feeling this way, and I feel like we can make an adjustment to make this better. Are you
Well,
on board
TT,
with me on
I
that?
don't feel like you should be. I don't feel like you should be upset about that now. What?
I am a little frustrated. You may not feel like I'm upset, but to me, it's a little bit
Well,
of
I
a
don't think
bigger
it's a big
issue.
deal though, TT. You making something out of nothing. Then what?
It's a big deal with me because I want us to work in harmony together. I want us to feel together. And right now, you're making me feel like we're not on board together in this.
Well, I think you just mad by yourself. They don't have nothing to do with me.
Well, let's sit down and talk about this a little bit, and maybe we can approach this a different way, and maybe I wouldn't feel that way. You know, how does this sound?
Well, I don't have anything to say because I didn't do nothing wrong.
Well, I'm not trying to say that put the fault on you as doing something wrong, but this is how I feel about the situation. I want to know if we can try it this way, so we can move forward in this, so I can let this go.
Well, I'm through talking. End of discussion. Bye.
That was a good one, Boogie. Oh, all right.
Y'all, I'm just gonna tell y'all right now, y'all got my stomach hurting from laughing. It's like y'all going back and forth like a married couple.
There it is.
He's trying to tell you, yeah, that's how it be.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's not. It shouldn't. Okay. Let me say it like this. We're gonna always have some type of disagreement, but it's how you handle it.
That's right.
You can't be just hanging the phone up on people, Boogie.
Well, some spouses do that. The next one is focus on the facts rather than judging motives. If your spouse forgets to make an important call, deal with the consequences of what you both have to do the next time rather than say, you're so careless and you just do this to irritate me. And above all, focus on understanding your spouse rather than on who is winning or losing. When your spouse confronts you, listen carefully to what is said and what isn't said. For example, it may be that he is upset about something that happened at work and you're getting nothing more than the burnt of the pressure. All right, we got about 3 minutes left, so let me hit on step 5 right quick. Step 5 is resolving conflict requires forgiveness. No matter how hard two people try to love and please each other, they will fail. With failure comes hurt, and the only ultimate relief for hurt is for soothing the slave of forgiveness. The key to maintaining an open and intimate and happy marriage is to ask for and grant forgiveness quickly and be able to do that is tied to an individual's relationship with God. It's a process to forgiveness. And just as Jesus forgave us as well as a process. Step 6 is resolving conflict requires returning a blessing for an insult. Now this right here might be one of the hardest steps for some people. What does it mean to return a blessing for an insult? To give a blessing first means stepping aside or simply refusing to retaliate if your spouse gets angry. Changing your natural tendency to lash out, fight back, or tell your spouse off is just about as easy as changing the course of the Mississippi River. You can't do it without God's help, without yielding to the power of the Holy Spirit. It also means doing good. Sometimes doing good simply takes a few words spoken gently and kindly, or perhaps a touch, a hug, a pat on the shoulder. You know, it might mean making a special effort to please your spouse by performing a special act of kindness. Finally, being a blessing means seeking peace, actual pursuing it. When you eagerly seek to forgive, you are pursuing oneness, not isolation. Our hope is the last section that he has down is God's purpose in our conflict is to test our faith, to produce endurance, and to refine us, to bring us to glory to himself. This is the hope he gives us, that we can actually approach our conflict as opportunity to strengthen our faith and to glorify God. So we have some tips, some pretty practical tips on resolving conflict in marriage. I wanted to go through a scenario, a little role play with Tamala and David Mann, but I'm not exactly sure how long it is, if we'll have enough time to get to it. So we'll just do it next week because we only have about 40 seconds left in the show today. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Boogie and Shirley, for being on the show with me today. I appreciate you. I thank you. It was a rather good show today. I applaud you for that. And I'd like to also thank the guests who listen to the show as well. I hope that you will continue to follow Woman to Woman and that you'll come back and see us next week. Thank you. You all be blessed. And remember to let God use you.